What happens when two dudes, one a retired Navy SEAL commander in Colorado Springs, and the other a hippie meditation teacher in New York City, get together to discuss living mindfully? That's a great question, because we don't know what will happen either. Raw, uncut, and unapologetic. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness with co-hosts John McCaskill and Will Schneider. Each week, we take an authentic dive into how mindfulness continually impacts our lives, deepens our relationships, and allows us to be emotionally alive. We filter all of our conversations through the man box, where we unpack how as men we are expected to act in society, how fighting the authentic human experience is exhausting and damaging, and how mindfulness can help. Now, on to the show.
All right. Here we are, another show, another episode of Men Talking Mindfulness. Here I am, John McCaskill in Colorado Springs with my brother from another mother there, Will Schneider in New York City. Today, Will and I are going to be discussing with our guest, Jake Cosme, the victim versus hero mindset. Now, I want to make sure here we don't minimize true victims, victims of crime, victims of abuse, victims of terror, victims of, whatever, natural disasters. Victimhood is true in these cases and others, but what we're here to talk about today specifically is the victim mentality and even more specifically, the victim mindset versus the hero mindset. And our guest, Jake Cosme, in his book that we'll get into here shortly, he says, victimhood is the fastest growing career field in America, creating a culture where the ability to be offended is so rampant, it shuts down growth, creativity, and positivity. We are so willing to judge and vilify those who have not had the guidance we have been blessed with. But first, let's go over to Will for some announcements.
Hey, John, good to be here. Welcome everybody to the show. We have, two exciting announcements. Well, I'll make the first one is if you ordered some MTM merch from us, it is on its way. I talked to my cousin helped to produce all the shirts and hoodies and stuff like that, and he's shipping them out. Rob Schneider, if you want some great T-shirts and stuff, check out Valley Athletics, and you can get some great merch and with a really great, amazing amount of customer service as well. But how about a next announcement is: have you ever considered a wellness retreat, specifically a plant-based medicine wellness retreat? Well, our friends at Evolutio, you might remember hearing that name, Evolutio. They have partnered with one of the leading companies in the world around psychedelic research, the Beckley Foundation. And John and I are going to join our former Army Ranger and McKinsey consultant and guest from one of our shows on trust, right? Neil Markey. And for his upcoming retreat, this plant-based medicine retreat, we're going to reflect, reset, rewire for a 5-day authentic wellness retreat focused on rewiring neural pathways and finding equanimity and creativity and resetting the nervous system. The retreat is at the beautiful Imiola Institute in Costa Rica, and is going to take place, and mark your calendar. There are still spots left on November 19th to 23rd. John and I will be sharing about the retreat leading up to it while we're there, if we can, and doing episode or two after the retreat and talk about our experience. Like I said, there are still spots available. We'd love for you to meet us there. And we're going to drop the link. Someone's going to drop the link, Lindsay, right into the comments here. So if you're interested and you really need to take a step back, or if you haven't really experienced with plant-based medicine, this is going to be psilocybin is what we're going to be working with in order to do this rewiring and kind of get deeper into ourselves and see what's inside so we can bring it out. Please join us. It's also going to be the first time that John and I are going to meet one another, which is wild. We're going to leave the States and go to Costa Rica, John, and I'm so excited for us. So once again, that's the Evolutio retreat at the Imiola Institute. That's November 19th to the 23rd. And right again, your merch is on its way.
Yeah, we're super excited about that. And we're super excited about our guest and the topic today. And that said, I'm going to go ahead and bring Jake up on the stage, if you will. Jake, good to see you, man. How are you?
Hey, guys. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Pleasure. We're excited to have you. So, hey, quick bio. Jake Cosme is a fellow U.S. Naval Academy grad, class of 2005. That's tough for me to say because I'm class of 2001, and we said something that like we never would say another class's number, but here I am saying Jake's number, class of 2005. Jake's a Marine Corps officer veteran who served 2 combat deployments in Iraq. But then in the summer of 2011, he was pulled over for a DUI, leaving the Marine Corps the following year with adverse fitness report. And that was the beginning of a downward spiral, which ended in his losing his house and going bankrupt, which he found to be his turnaround moment. Since then, he has gone on to author a book, The Recipe, outlining the ingredients for success. And now he is in tech and cryptocurrency. And we're excited to get into this conversation with Jake about victimhood. But first, back to Will for our opening practice. Over to you, brother.
Yes. And good. Hey, get everybody, Jake included, and John, because we get a little nervous when we go live, right? This is where we're going to we're going to take some time, find ourselves here and now with some breathing. So again, if you're sitting down, if you can close your eyes, great. If you're driving or if you're, somewhere else out in the world, maybe just pause for a moment or pull over if you can safely, or just stop wherever you are if you're walking, and let's just take a moment and find our breath. So try to sit up tall or stand up nice and tall. Let's take our right hand on our belly and left hand on our chest so we can really begin to use the breath and fill the breath in our entire torso, which has a tremendous impact on our neurology because of this wonderful vagus nerve that sends signals up and down, our spine and into our brain, and letting us know how things are. Right. And the deeper we breathe and the calmer we breathe and the bigger we breathe, right, the signals that travel up this vagus nerve and tap into our most basic reptilian brain says everything is okay. We can be here and now instead of on red alert. So let's exhale the breath out. Again, close the eyes if it's available to you. Good. Let's take a big inhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's exhale out the mouth. 5, 4. There you go. 3. Nice, John. 2, 1. Big breath in again. Fill it up. Feel that wave. Fill from the bottom to the middle of the chest to the top of the chest. Exhale out the mouth again. Let's do one more of those. Inhale really big. Feel that expansion. Keep going. Inhale, inhale, inhale. Exhale out. And we're going to work on one little wonderful anxiety releasing breathing technique. We're going to take 2 inhales. We're going to take one big inhale to start, take another inhale to top it off, and then exhale out the mouth again. It's a great way, again, to release stress. And on that exhale, don't be afraid to open up the mouth and open up more of the throat and let out with a nice big and see how this breathing technique that we're going to do for 5 rounds, see how it helps to transition you from those states of panic, stress, anxiety, and drops us into more states of calm, cool, and connectedness. Exhale the breath out through the mouth. Here we go. Let's take a big inhale. And then pause. Take another inhale through the nose. And exhale out. Good. Let's go again. Inhale. Another inhale. Out. 3 more. Inhale bigger. From bottom, middle, top, hold. Another inhale. Exhale out. Through the mouth. Very, very nice. Everybody, let's just do 2 more. Bigger inhale if you can. Keep going, keep going. Hold, hold, hold. Top it off. Exhale out. And here we go. One more big inhale. Hold. Take another hit. Exhale out. And just take a moment here with the hands resting in the torso and just feel how you're feeling, coming back to a nice, smooth quality of breath. As you breathe, feel yourself either standing on your feet or sitting in those sit bones, just really landing yourself just through that physical awareness, right? Really becoming more present, not just of ourselves emotionally, but physically, and using the breath as that navigational tool into the now. When you're ready, maybe put a little smile on your face, open up your eyes, and let's start the rest of the show. Awesome, guys. Woo! That always feels a little bit better, yeah?
It does. Man. That was a great technique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, Will, I could definitely tell just with my hand on my heart how my heart rate decreased in doing that. And then I love the take another hit.
I know, right?
Sound like we're puff puff give.
I know, right? Puff giver. I know. I'm careful when I say that because people are like, oh, maybe they got some kind of chemical problems or something. You know what I mean?
We're passing the breathing around.
Yeah.
That's right.
Pass it left.
That's
Pass it
right,
left.
man.
Breathing.
Give me some.
All right. So, hey, yeah, again, we're going to be talking about victim versus hero mentality mindset. And what I found interesting as we're kind of doing some research for the show is there's one little blurb that I found on the internet, just asked, hey, are you easygoing, positive, and pretty happy, or do you complain, have judgments, and feel things are against you? Are you self-supporting or self-defeating? These qualities can be covered by the words hero or victim, and it's that basic. But we're going to get into a lot more depth here on the show. But before we do that, Jake, let's start with you, brother. Love to hear your thoughts on victimhood and a little bit about your past, what brought you to where you are today, and the adversity, the obstacles that you've overcome, the downward spiral that you were a part of that I mentioned briefly, and how you came out of that, how you kept from being a victim yourself.
Great. Thanks. So Jay Cosme, I'm originally from Southern California. I actually grew up in a city called Rancho Cucamonga, which if you guys have ever watched the movie,
say that five times fast.
Yeah. If you've ever watched a movie Friday, it's mentioned in there. So, the entire time I was growing up, I came from a strong military family and background. And the only thing I kind of wanted to do or achieve, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, but this grandiose idea I had, this mission, if you would, is I wanted to go to the academy, one of the service academies. And so this it filled my mind at night. And I would pray every night, be like, hey, this is what I want to do with my life. By no means was I a standout athlete or academic. And just, I guess, through consistent prayer and thought about it, I actually was afforded a chance to go to Naval Academy Prep School in 2000, right after high school. So I went to prep school. Got a little bit of trouble there, but somehow made it to graduate. I went to the academy in 2001, right as you're graduating, John.
Right.
And then made it through 4 years there, did some sports, did boxing, did Frisbee, and graduated 2005. And then kind of right as I was graduating, the entire time, all I thought I wanted to be was a naval pilot, a Navy aviator. I grew up watching Top Gun. Like, this is the thing I want to do in life. And get to graduation, and Iraq and Afghanistan is going really heavy. And I made this change and decision in my mind that I was like, hey, I want to be there on the ground. I want to see what's taking place and be a part of this force that's going on. And kind of just the way I thought about it, it's not too often your country goes to war, and getting the chance to see it. Not that I was, war hungry, but I actually just wanted to see it. Like, I wanted to be there, feel it, feel that presence, be in a foreign country, in a foreign nation, and feel it. And you don't really get that chance as an aviator to be on the ground to feel it. And so I made the change to go to Marine, did Marine ground, ended up becoming an intelligence officer. Then I was assigned to 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines, which is in 29 Palms. It's in the desert in Southern California, middle of nowhere. And I did 2 back-to-back deployments, both to Ramadi and then Al Qaim in 07, 08, and then 08, 09. I came back, and when I came back, I was now at the academy for 4 or 5 years. I was in Iraq for 2 deployments. So about 10 years of my life now, it kind of eclipsed and gone. And I changed duty stations, and I was now in charge of officer recruiting at USC. And this is kind of where my downward spiral kind of starts. So the reason I kind of started is, one, when you're deployed and doing something all the time, you have this clear mission focus, you're getting ready to go do it. It's easy to execute upon that. When you put, a Marine, particularly myself, in a large city by himself, hey, go on a college campus. I picked up promotion. I was now a captain. Here's some extra money. And, you're kind of on your own little island. Your mind starts to go in these different ways. And I kind of felt victim. Again, I was a victim. I fell victim to this partying, drinking. I felt, I owed it to myself for being gone for these past 10 years, that I could go out and start to do damage to my body through drinking and partying and whatnot. And this is what kind of started. So in these 3 years, I really started drinking heavily. I bought a BMW convertible that just was part of this downfall. And I ended up getting a DUI in 2011 on Hollywood Boulevard on a Friday night, like a completely, imagine just like this douchebag in a convertible BMW M3 going down Hollywood Boulevard, smoking a cigarette after I just left a bar and a couple of drinks, and the officer pulls me over. He's like I'm forced to pull you over for looking this ridiculous, right? Like you're just an idiot. Ended up getting a DUI that night, and John, I'm sure it's the same way for you, kind of military, anyone in the military in general, but I think there's a little bit extra scrutiny on military officers. When you get this DUI, it's kind of like a scarlet letter on you.
Oh, yeah.
There's no coming back from it. This was kind of a really bottom point. And, my command, they didn't do anything. They didn't charge me with anything. They didn't do anything. They're like, hey, we know you're kind of like at the bottom right now. What else do you want us to really do to you? Right. And so I'm really gracious to them, to my commander, who's now Colonel Cook. Hopefully you get a chance to hear this. They treated me really gracefully. And, but that was kind of the end of my military career. I went to the academy, did these combat deployments I was really proud of. But after about 7-8 years now, I was kind of walking out at the bottom. I just got into DUI. I got a double, triple adverse fit rep, which means it has to go up to it. And for anyone that's asking, a fitness report means your quality or your measured duty during that time. I was at the lowest level. So it was the lowest measured officer in the entire command, which means a general had to go up and sign my fitness report out of every officer in the entire West Coast that, is basically unfit. And you would think right there, as I was kind of exiting the military, this is now 2012, going in 2013, that like, okay, this is where Jake starts to pick it up. But as I got out of the Marines, this is where the spiral just gets even worse. And now I wasn't in the Marines any longer. I wasn't an officer, and 10 years had elapsed. This drinking now turned into really like drugs and partying. I was in Hollywood and clubbing and raving, and it didn't just turn to recreational, infrequently. It was like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. Like I was doing it Mondays too. Like and it didn't matter what it was. If there was something I could find, it was going inside my body.
Could I just jump in there, Jake, for a second? I was wondering at this time, like, what are some of the feelings you're going through? What's some of the self-talk? You know what I mean? Because that's like, that's really what begins to pull us in. That's where kind of the vortex starts to swirl and like turns into a black hole. So I'm just curious. Just curious about during that time, if you remember looking back and reflecting, it's like, what were some of the feelings and maybe that self-talk that you had like after the military and like, and you're in this place and college campuses? Yeah.
So the self-talk as I'm kind of in the spiral, or the self-talk leading up to that?
Yeah, well, this like when you're like kind of we're moving out of the military, you kind of have this scarlet letter on you, and you're on this new kind of like path in your life. Like you no longer have the military that seems to like it gives you a purpose, and it's like, or if you don't, whether you like it or not, you have a job to do. Or here you're outside, and now you're like, okay, like who am I, and that kind of thing. So I'm just curious, like where those feelings might be.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Will. To be quite honest, and looking back upon it, it kind of starts out with like anything, you're having fun. And then having fun, you get this feeling off it, this high, this mental state, this euphoria, if you will. And then so you want to do it more. And what I started to notice during this transition as I'm going down and down this spiral was the feelings went away, and it almost went to, I was doing it to silence I was in complete silence. I was in complete numbness. I really wasn't left with too many feelings. Like this moral compass you have of right or wrong. Like, should I, drink and do drugs tonight and drive home? Probably like we can all sit here and be like, oh, that's a bad idea. But this moral compass, when you're in that moment, I was like, I'm fine. I'm okay to do this. And it went away because to your question, Will, the feelings went away. It was just numbness. And now I was in a state to kind of chase this numbness for a while. And it just led to, I was like, as long as I can make it to this next weekend, like this is the only thing I would have to do. And yeah, and it was about a year or so doing that. It got to the point and kind of getting out of this, you talk about having this purpose. One of the things I will say, they talk about it. I had to go to AA for a couple of instances, sometimes forced when I was in the military and sometimes by volunteer. But in AA, they talk about having this higher power. And if you think about it, this higher power is the same thing as being in the military, having a mission, having something to do, or having something to chase, as I'll get to in a second. But really, I had no higher power anymore. Not the
There you
military. I had no moral compass. I had nothing really other than just keep chasing this numbness.
Right.
That changed in 2013 when, at the time, my then girlfriend, now wife, Carol, who we have 2 beautiful kids with, I get her pregnant, and I remember the day she walks in, and somewhat somber and sad, and she says, "Oh, I'm pregnant," and as if I was going to be upset by it. And I remember in this instance in summer 2013, it was like this overcoming that, wow, finally I walked it in. I was like, okay, thank you. Like, I thanked her for now allowing me to transition to like this next life, as if this is at the point where like Jake is now waking up to be like, okay, I can't continue this life I'm on. Thank you for giving me a reason to go do it, because I know I wouldn't have had my own willpower. So that willpower is forced upon me to go be, a provider to her and to go be a father. Without it, I'll be honest, I don't think I'd have the willpower to walk out. So it was kind of forced me to do it. Then from there, kind of pull myself out. I was able to get a job in tech, thank God. And then I've been working throughout tech over the past 7-8 years now. And kind of really this huge transition point to me in 2020 is I came across cryptocurrency and started my involvement in reading and understanding of kind of the finance world. And if you look at,
I still don't understand that at all.
We'll
have to have another conversation on that sometime.
Yeah. No, it's really mind changing, and it delves into a lot of parts of politics, and you kind of see maybe some of the reasons we did go to war, and you come across concepts like this thing called the petrodollar and the gold standard, and all this history of our country and our nation, probably a lot of mistakes we made, and you start to notice that, hey, maybe we're not doing things the right way, and there's another alternative that you can opt out and start to get into. And this now kind of serves as like I don't want to say my mission, but it starts to consume me as this concept and idea that I want to be a part of this evolution, this movement taking place, because I think it's going to go a lot of places. And so that's a story, and we could talk about some of the ingredients here, but from start to finish, that's kind of what transpired. And kind of the last part of it, it was COVID 2020. I wrote this letter to myself in 2015. I emailed myself. I was kind of like in the depths of this. I was like, hey, pull yourself out of this, get your head together. Your father, your husband now, pull your head out of your ass. And when you're done with this, write a book. And in the middle of COVID during 2020, I was everyone, like, they're just bored off their ass working from home. I came across this email, and that's what I was like, okay, I think I've made it through now out of this dark period. I'm not, by no means am I clearly, I don't know if we'll ever be out of it, but I'm definitely out of the struggle. Let me reflect back and let me write about it, and we talk about it, and kind of combine some of these other pieces that I came across the way, these ingredients, as I call them. And that's how my book, The Recipe, was born.
Nice, man. And you talked about, as you were going through that downward spiral, you had some thoughts of, negativity, and you, at one point, you even kind of mentioned some of the aspects of that victimhood mindset, but then you turn it around and how powerful that was. But I want to talk about that victimhood mindset, that what makes it up, and the victim kind of, I know you talked about the ingredients in the book, The Recipe, but that's the ingredients to success. What we want to talk about here is what the ingredients of the victim mindset are. And it's kind of this belief that when something goes wrong, that everything from there on out is going to go wrong. If like back in your case, right? The DUI, and then getting the bad fit rep, and then leaving the Marine Corps, and then this downward spiral. That's the victim mindset, that you continue to think everything is going to go wrong, that the world is against me, other people are to blame. You never take accountability, and that any effort to change is going to fail. So there's no point in trying, but you turn that around. So again, that's the victim mindset. And you turned it around with that email that you sent to yourself, which is incredibly powerful. I think that's a great idea for people to do. Yeah. If they are in that victimhood mindset, if they are down and out, send themselves an email. And like you mentioned, pull your head out of your ass, or at least tell yourself to pull your head out of your ass and get on that upward spiral. So I'd love to know your thoughts on the ingredients of victimhood and how those came into play, and then how you eventually got onto the right path, if you will.
Yeah. So and that exact period as I was kind of making these serious mistakes, and it doesn't happen quickly. It took me years to kind of ruin my life, right? It happened over a sustained amount of time. But I can recall thinking that maybe not that the world owed me something, but I thought I owed it to myself that I was, Jake, you did the hard work. You went to the academy. You served your country. You did this deployment.
Yeah.
You owe it to yourself to get as absolutely drunk and fucked up this weekend as possible. You owe it to yourself to go blow every single paycheck for the next 5 years or what have you.
Jesus.
This and you start to think about it. It's this superiority complex that you've done something in the past, so you think now you're better. You're better than working hard. You're better than trying to refrain from consumption. But every day, you owe the world the best, and regardless of what you did in the past, right? And John, I'll steal this one, right? But the only easy day was yesterday, right? And that's true for everyone. It's true in the real life. It's true for Marines. It's true as we transition. I thought I worked hard previously. I thought I worked hard for years, so I didn't have to work hard any further. And that just doesn't mean work hard with life, with savings, but work hard me mentally, and to say, Jake, like you really don't need to consume in excess this much, right? And that's a hard thing. Consumption in excess of anything, and pick your poison. But that's an everyday struggle, as I kind of have this full chapter on the struggles. But I think that's where it comes from, the superiority complex. You think you owe it to yourself. You think the world owes you, but
the world owes you. Yeah.
Yeah. But you think you're better. I'll be honest. You think you're kind of better. I was like, oh, hey, I went to the academy. There's no way I could get a DUI. Like I did, a very successful deployment. There's no way I can't get a good job. Right. It's rather than waking up, humbling yourself and saying, no, I got to wake up, tie up my shoes, and like hit it just as hard today. And it's even harder. I'm older now. I'm like in my 30s, and the competition, they're right out of college. They're eager, they're hungry. And you think you're hard, Jake, because you did something hard. You're not hard. Maybe you were 8 years ago when you're working hard, but you're not anymore. You have to keep it sharp. That's right.
No, I think it's like interesting that we come back. You said a few times, like the world owes me this, and it's like, so instead of like attaching yourself or finding your higher purpose, right, and working towards that higher purpose, it's just like it's that lack of responsibility for your own life, and really pursuing like, okay, what is it like? What I we've talked in John's transition out of the military, and that lack of identity, the lack of purpose, which can really just opens up this giant vacuum. And what do we fill it with? And I think what you're referring to, Jake, is that whole numbing aspect. It's like, okay, who am I? What am I? So here I am consuming alcohol, drugs, like partying, going to raves and stuff like that, so I can feel good about myself. And that's kind of like, it seems like that lends itself to, that's my purpose, is the weekend or the time that I can just let loose, have fun, let go of these thoughts that are like kind of haunting me in some ways, like, who are you, Jake? What are you going to do now? It's and instead, like, the beliefs that you talked about and the constructs that you began to put around your own life. It's like, I'm owed, I'm better than other people. It's like, why isn't the world, meeting my needs? Like, why, instead of actively pursuing, it's like, and John, I've talked about this in several different occasions, in several different realms. It's like, getting out there and being a creator of your own life instead of being a consumer, right? Instead of like, and then when we sit back and we just consume and we begin to like see the world as like all screwed up because your life's screwed up, we're kind of stuck again in this vortex. And also part of this vortex, and to be kind of the hippie here a little bit, right? It has energy, right? It has energy. And we get into that kind of like that law of attraction, right? So if I'm feeling I'm a piece of shit and I don't have an identity and I keep self-sabotaging and I keep filling myself with all these negative self-talks and negative beliefs, like, what are you going to attract? Of course, you're going to get a DUI, or of course you're going to get in a fight, or of course you're going to get hurt in some way because of the actions that you've chosen to take, instead of being like, hey, like, really reflecting and being, and trying to continually strive for, what you're capable of, and really accessing and discovering more of that potential that we all have within us. So I just wanted to put that into our conversation.
No, and you hit it on the head. You talked about this pursuit, and that's what I try to write about, and that I kind of you need something to chase, right? If not, you're going to be in the struggle, and that's something to chase. And when we're in the military, is mission accomplishment. You get a mission, you need to do it. You need to see it through. When you're in a civilian, you might not have it, And, kind of on the headline here, this victim versus hero mentality, I think heroes in all their regards, they're chasing something. If you've ever met a person, and I'll give you a couple examples, if you met a person that's in pursuit of something, that he'll never succumb to victim mentality. And one example I'll have is as I was getting out there, one of the guys I served with, James Colvin, he's now Lieutenant Colonel Colvin. He's getting out of recruiting. I was like, oh, what do you want to do? He's like, I'm going to be a Boston city firefighter. I was like, why do you want to do that? He's like, there's only two things I wanted to do, is be a Marine, serve my country, and then be a firefighter. And he said it so succinctly that there was nothing else in his life he was going to do other than those two things. And now what is he doing? He's now he's a reserve battalion commander, and he's a Boston city firefighter. I don't know his particular rank, and I follow him. Yeah. But that idea of like, dude, this guy knows exactly what he wants to do, and he's chasing it. He doesn't have the time to be a victim. This next, and that's a hero in my mind. And this next example is my son. He does Little League. Last year, he was playing for the first year doing Little League. He was playing for the Yankees, and the team went, I want to say 15-0, but there was one tie, even though it was a non-game. So it was like 14-1-0. They won the championships, and he got the best catch. And the reason we won is because at that age, at 7 years old, if you have a kid that can pitch, like just throw a strike, like if a kid can get it like over the plate and throw a strike, let alone with some speed, like you're gonna have a knockout team. We had two kids that could pitch. Nice. And the dad, the coach, he, as we won and went to the championships, the North Torrance Little League championships, and a shout out because Torrance made it to the World Series Little League championships this year. But I remember this dad, as like kind of was giving a speech at our barbecue. He said, every day during this season at 4 p.m., he had this alarm that whatever he was doing, he would go outside and he'd take his son and just throw for 20 minutes. And he didn't even have to tell me. He didn't have to tell the crowd. It exuded from him. There was one thing this guy wanted to do in life. He wanted to be his son's Little League coach. That's it, right? Wow. Yeah. And this hero, like he didn't have time to complain. Anyone can complain. We cannot find time. We cannot do this. But whether you want to serve, whether you want to be a firefighter, whether you want to just be a coach, it doesn't matter, as long as you have something you want and you pursue it. Yeah, that's the hero mindset, right? And I kind of think a lot of veterans, we get out, we have no idea what we want to do, and since we don't know, that void's gonna get filled one way or another. So you need to have a want, you need to have something you want to do, and that'll lead to your chase or your pursuit.
It makes me think of John and I are the man in the arena. And there's one quote in there that I really like. It says, I got you, dude. I got your John.
you beat me to it.
And I love that one sentence. And sorry, John and Steph. Oh, yeah. Fuck, it doesn't matter. Unapologetic. Right. Is like to spend yourself in a worthy cause. Right. To spend yourself in a worthy cause, and not a a selfish cause. Right. To spend yourself in a worthy cause is selfless. And how can you use your talents and all the skills that you've acquired in order to be a great firefighter, in order to be a great coach, in order to, bring mindfulness to the world like John and I are doing. But it's like, again, I love you, that higher power, the higher purpose. And this is like, so this is kind of some of those solutions to get out of that victim. It's like, if you feel like you're a victim out there, it's like, what are you doing with your life in order to help other people? Or what is that, how are you spending your time in a worthy cause? So.
Yeah. And Jake was one of those folks who had to memorize that man in the arena back at the academy. Of one of the first things we had to learn, and, talk awesome. About, you talked about, Will, a second ago, creating versus consuming. When you're putting yourself out there, you're going to have failures, right? When you have those failures, if you think, okay, well, I failed, now I am a failure, then that becomes that victim mindset. You become that victim mindset. You become that victim. And if you're able to realize, hey, look, I failed, but I can learn from this. And we've had multiple episodes on this too. If you can learn from your errors, if you can learn from your mistakes, if you can learn from getting knocked down, then you can come back better and stronger. And then you can be that hero that is always in pursuit. And that actually reminds me of a podcast that Will and I went on recently with Mike Burke, Army Sergeant Major. He runs Always in Pursuit, the podcast. And you said that by word for word, Jake, is being always in pursuit. That's key. If you can be always in pursuit of something and have an idea of what that is, and then also that heart of service, it gives you that purpose, then overcoming that victim mentality, it almost becomes a natural thing. So Yeah. Back over to you, brother.
And you're also less likely to be, if you're higher the purpose, like, and you're like, well, with a higher purpose, like I put out a schedule, for the week, a schedule for the day. And I'm like, and I look at my schedule, I'm like, oh, well, I can't drink now. I can't smoke pot now. I can't go out and have just fuck off doing something, that doesn't serve that higher purpose. So it's like that you're energetically tethered to something that is purposeful. But I don't know what that brings up for you, Jake, but thanks for letting us have those moments.
No. Awesome. Yeah, I will say one of the reasons, I reached out to you guys, and I love your podcast, and you talk about mindfulness, and my book talks about mindset, and I'll hit upon this is I didn't practice mindfulness in the exact way you guys did, but I used to have a lot of anxiety, a ton of anxiety. And I think that probably is one of the causes for my drinking or just indulgence in general. And a lot of people kind of do. And I came across this poem by Eckhart Tolle, and it talks about being in presence. Yes. And so this poem is like part of my recipe that I have in my day that I do, and it takes away my anxiety and kind of fills that. And a lot of ways I see that the same way that practicing breathing, practicing mindfulness is, you need to fill yourself with something. And this poem kind of fills that being present for me. So thought I'd just throw that out there.
No, do you have the poem? Do you have it handy? I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. 1 second. Bring it out.
No. Yeah. No worries.
Well, while you're doing that, Jake, I'll throw out some of the things that we've touched on how to pull yourself out of that victim mindset, and then kind of just go through a list of 7 powerful ways to get out of that victim mindset. I pulled it from 7mindsets.com. One of them is to recognize martyrdom in yourself. First off, that's mindfulness, right? Is paying attention to what it is you're feeling. Self-reflection. Yes. Perfect. Will. So it's recognizing that you are being a martyr, that martyrdom in yourself, the martyrdom type statements that you're saying, you recognize that. The next one is forgiving others and forgiving yourself. So that's number 2 and 3.
That's a big one.
Forgiving others and forgiving yourself. That's huge, right?
Yeah.
If you're able to do that, and that comes back, hey man, what do we talk about on every single show? Will, compassion for others and compassion for yourself. If you have that, then you're able to forgive yourself. You're able to forgive others. So that's number 2 and 3. Number 4 is meditating or praying, so that you're able to have that internal introspective work. So number 4 is that. Number 5 is managing your mood. So that could be something as simple as writing, in your journal, your gratitude statements. So changing, again, rewiring your brain to see things in a different way and having that positivity bias instead of the negativity bias, seeing the good in things. And then number 6 is having a victor's mantra instead of the victim's mantra, the victor or the hero's mantra, and actually like thinking positively. And, we've talked about positive affirmations in past episodes as well. If you have that victor's mantra, and you say good things to yourself, I know that sounds stupid, sounds kind of cheesy, but it works.
Very hippy dippy, John.
So
very
hippy, so hippy. And then finally,
love, guys.
and then finally, this one is taking action, and that's what you've done, Jake. Is you've taken action and pulled yourself out of that downward spiral, and that's probably what a lot of people miss, is they forget to take that step. Which, if we're action oriented, then we're able to pull ourselves out. But if we're not, then we may not take that step. But that's key. But yeah, I want to come back to the Eckhart Tolle poem, man. If you got it up,
I got it. So
bring it, Jake. Bring it. We love poems. It's our first. I think it's one of our first poems by our guests. This is so nice.
Yes, let's do it.
Poems and Navy SEALs, they go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
I knew it. So I start off with a question is, am I present? And then starts the poem. All negativity is caused by denial of the present. Unease, anxiety, tension, stress, worry, all forms of fear are caused by too much future and not enough presence. Guilt, regret, resentment, grievances, sadness, bitterness, and all forms of non-forgiveness are caused by too much past and not enough presence. So it lines up. Man. Yeah, it lines up with the 7 mindsets. Yeah. And I'll tell you, when I came across this, I was working at Akamai, and I used to have this coworker, and he used to get on my nerves so bad. I would get like just feelings of hate would consume me that I wanted to bring this person pain and violence. I'm not like, like it was
honesty,
bad.
man.
Yeah, it was bad. And I came across this poem in one of my leadership classes I was taking. You know, there's corporate leadership classes I took, and then I read it and I added it as part of my recipe in the morning. And my hatred towards this person, and this unease and this everything I felt for him, which is just a sign of me not being comfortable with myself, that I can't take in someone else's own opinion. It's me being the bad person here. It went away because I wasn't present. I was just thinking of, this guy's going to say something dumb. This guy did something dumb, but it was just me not being able to control that a person has a different opinion than me. And this poem kind of really took it away from me.
Nice. Right. What you mentioned about those 7 elements, what you just talked about with Tolle's poem here, all feelings, right? And it's just like, how are we becoming? And that's what just so, how many times, John, have we talked on the show about, how men in particular, we kind of deny most of our feelings unless we're trying to be dominant or aggressive or, frustrated or angry. But this is a great opportunity for everyone out there listening to the show with Jake and understanding victimhood. It's like, we begin to become aware of our feelings, understand the feelings. I love what Tolle says in this, being present, right, to our feelings and not slaved, and pulled in the past or anxious in the future. But this is that great opportunity with mindfulness and the meditation that is a part of mindfulness. It's like, how are you feeling? Right. And if you know how you're feeling, then you can maybe take yourself in a different direction, or knowing that, hey, I'm not like I'm feeling empty. I'm feeling lost, which is kind of that loss of that higher purpose. So just want to put that out there. But it's like, it's again, feelings. And it's like, how do we get to know our feelings? And what do we do about them once we get to know them? And that's really what the recipe is all about, is taking action.
Yeah.
I did want to ask, and it kind of came across, you'd mentioned it, John, the Victor's mantra is part of your guys' mindful practice. Do you have a mantra that you repeat, or that you guys have kind of came together with?
Yeah. I mean, personally, I don't do a whole lot of mantra-based meditations. But I do have mantras. It's gonna sound super cheesy. It's basically, if you think about the Saturday Night Live, what was it?
Oh no,
Jack Handy, like positive affirmations with Jack Handy is like staring at himself in the mirror. He's like, I am good enough, I am strong enough, and doggone it, people like me, something like that.
Yeah, right.
So like literally I stare at my mirror. I don't stare at my mirror, but I look in my mirror every morning. I'm like, all right, you've got this. And that's it. It's a simple one. It's just, you've got this. Because if I don't say that to myself, I go into the day thinking, okay, I'm going to get overwhelmed. And that comes back to the anxiety that you talk about. But I don't bring that into a meditation. I do mindful meditation. I don't do the transcendental mantra-based meditation. Though I know many of our listeners do that and it works for them. But I personally, I say the mantra when I look at myself in the mirror. I look at myself in the eye. I'm like, you've got this. So that's personally what I use. It's kind of cheesy, but it works for me.
I gotta go watch a YouTube video on Jack Handy.
Yes,
he was hilarious. Oh my God,
dude, so good.
I love Phil Hartman. Phil Hartman, genius.
Oh, miss him.
On my end, I work with gratitude mantras. One thing that really helps me also is just because I kind of suffer sometimes from that what is it called, imposter syndrome, and but also just telling myself I'm worthy of the success, I'm worthy of the gifts I received today, and then backing that up with gratitude. I'm appreciative for this, I'm thankful for this, I'm thankful for that, and that just helps me get out of any kind of negative feelings that might be trying to subvert my potential for that day, and then it helps me get into at least a neutral emotional place. And then it's coming back to that whole being now. It's like if I'm appreciative and thankful for what's going on now, I get to really see the world as a gift. And that's kind of what I'm going to butcher this quote, but it's like there's a gift in every moment, and that's why it's called the present. Right.
Yep.
So it's just like, so if you're really looking out for those gifts, instead of the victim, mindset is we're not taking responsibility, we're self-sabotaging, we feel powerless, we have this negative self-talk, and what's that going to bring? Again, energetically, it's going to be, you're filtering and processing the world. It's like, oh, that's screwed up. Oh, judging the world, that's not helping me. Oh, there I am. Just to kind of, again, feed that, that negativity bias, that freaking beast and that kind of demon and dragon inside of us that, it needs, if you open it up, right, open up that cage or that Pandora's box, it's just going to start asking for energy to feed, that victim or that negativity bias that comes along with the victim mindset.
Oh yeah, the energy, man, right there that you hit on, and I know Dr. Seth Hickerson, we've had him on the show before, where he says, where your attention goes, your energy flows, right? Yeah. And so much if you're paying attention to yourself as a victim, then your energy is going to go there as well. And as your energy goes there, then it's going to be tougher and tougher to get out of that downward spiral because you're not bringing a positive energy into it. So that comes back to the poem that you read, Jake. Hey, if you're able to focus on the present rather, and not get consumed with the future and all that anxiety, that fear-based stuff, or the past, all that depression and sadness-based stuff. If you're able to focus on the here and now, the here and now is okay, right? The here and now is okay.
It's all we got. It's
all we got. That's the only thing that's happening, right? The past is gone. We can't do that. We can't do that. We can't change that. The future isn't here yet. Sure, we can plan for it, but we don't need to worry about it. We can plan for it, but not worry about it. And you obviously know that with the SMEAC, situation, mission, execution, action and command and control, or admin and logistics, command and control.
There we go.
Yeah. It took me a
second. What? I'm confused. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Will is a 5-paragraph order in the military. That's how we dumb it down. We got to dumb everything down in the military, make it really simple. SMEAC, situation, mission, execution, admin and logistics, command and control. That's what it stands for, that little acronym. But yeah, if our mission is to be focused on the present moment, that can help us. And then also always at the same time, always be in pursuit. So, all right, I'm rambling now. So back over to you, Jake. Let's bring our guest back on.
So combining, two different things you guys talked about, this feeling, actually, it just came up right now that I had, and being present. I recall kind of when I was in the middle of my struggle, it would be a weekday, middle of the day like this. And I wasn't present. And the only thing I was looking forward to was like, just let me get to 4 or 5 PM just so I could start like pounding shots or doing something nefarious. Let me get to Friday. Let me get to numbing, because I wasn't present. And actually this feeling of just trying to get there rather than be where I'm at in this moment gave me anxiety, because the only thing I'm doing now is just looking forward to this time I get to go harm my body and myself even further. And it's kind of these all these things, they start to circle back and you don't realize it till later. And you think, you write about it, you do your poems, and you're like, oh, that's why I was in that position, because I wasn't present, right?
Yeah.
But
good on you, man.
Yeah. The last part, thanks for you guys dropping your 2 mantras. One of the portions I have in my book that I call, doing your affirmations. I came across this mantra, and it kind of hit me. It's by Dr. Joseph Murphy, and he was around during the 50s. He's no longer with us, and he has all these writings, and he actually has some great YouTube videos. But he talks about these people that were able to heal themselves in foreign countries just by positive mental attitudes, and whether we want to call it prayer, we want to say affirmations, but he would say, if you just say health and happiness to yourself 5 times a day, 5 minutes a day for 3 to 4 times a day, what will happen will be health and happiness. And it really reminded me of this boxer, if anyone's into boxing, Floyd Mayweather Jr. Who arguably, in my opinion, might be one of the best boxers ever. He had this mantra of hard work, dedication. And you can see when he's practicing and training, saying hard work, dedication throughout his entire, 1 hour in the ring. He's just saying it, hard work, dedication, hard work, dedication. He had these mantras. And I'm in tech sales, and so Dr. Murphy kind of wrote about, he's like, oh, if you want to be successful, it's easy. Just say wealth and success to yourself 5 minutes a day. If you say that's if anyone wants to be rich, anyone listening, if you want to be rich, just say wealth and success to yourself for 5 minutes a day, and you're gonna be rich. It's that simple, right?
Yeah.
And it's true. You want to be happy, just tell yourself you're happy for 5 minutes a day, and you have your mantra that you're worthy, or you got this, and then what happens? You happen to be worthy, and you happen to have it, right?
Yeah, I mean,
you're whispering to yourself.
Foundation.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
it lays the foundation for that next step, right? Taking action that we talked about before, And then Will, go ahead, man. You're whispering to
No,
yourself.
it was kind of, you whisper to yourself and you whisper to the universe. Again, it's like we're in constant harmony, or if we want to be, right, with ourselves and our higher purpose. But like, you know, that higher purpose doesn't happen alone. Like the world has to conspire in some ways, and the more we're in that wonderful affirmed mindset of whatever, wealth and happiness, or you know, hard work and dedication or something like that, right, we're going to start again seeing ourselves, fulfilling that vision that we have of ourselves. One thing I'll add about those affirmations, you know, it's not just the words, right, it's the feelings that they bring with us, because that's how we really, like, I mean, how we are, like, we connect, you know, to the world through our heart space. So if you're able to, any affirmation that you bring in or that you utilize in order to use it as a tool in order to become more of that, pull yourself away from the victim and living into this, the hero mindset, is also living more of a heroic and a victorious or triumphant life, is like really getting into that feeling, getting into the feeling. Because we're also continually, as we use those mantras and as we use affirmations, we're creating a greater sense of self. We're creating a stronger, what I'll say, a stronger reference to those things that we want in our mind, in our life, in our mind, and our body. Oh, hey, little guy!
I see your little one there, man.
This is one of the higher powers right here. Right?
That's right.
There you go.
That's
Is that Maximilian?
Absolutely.
This is Maximilian. Yeah, great one.
Yeah.
His little nickname is Maxie.
Hi, Maxie.
Right on, man. Good to see you, little buddy. Well, hey, Jake, I know we're coming close to the end of the show. And again, the way that we normally wrap it up is with a closing practice. And then we obviously say farewell. But prior to that, man, is there anything else that you want to cover that we haven't talked about?
Yeah, please.
Last thing I did want to hit: ingredients, victimhood, presence. I think we're pretty wrapped up.
Go ahead, Jake. Sorry.
No, and this is weird, and I don't know why. I was thinking about things I wanted to talk to you guys, or just I want your audience to hear. But one of the parts that kind of plays into this victim mindset and really had me thinking, because I came across it in my book I wrote about. I had to go to jail for a little bit as part of my DUI and failure to serve. It's called county, and at the time I didn't think it was that bad. And reflecting, it's like, oh, that's kind of bad, right? But when you go there, they separate you by race, so they force the segregation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I start to think about that. And one of the reasons I kind of wrote about victimhood, I was in the middle of 2020 in the political climate, you know, there's this segregation that I think causes a lot of hate and ill will in the world and the environment. And that's one of the things I try to be mindful of and keep up. And, you know, we're segregating people every day, whether, hey, you're vaccinated, you're not vaccinated, you're this political party or that political party. And I saw it at its most basic form when you combine hundreds, thousands of men, and you separate them by race and you put them inside a concrete building and wall. What happens to them? It creates a chaotic environment. And I think the same thing kind of takes place in our world, in our natural world, that the segregation, and just I try to be mindful of, like, hey, is the media trying to segregate me and force me into a particular tribe or position or group? And that's one of the things, the last talking point I guess I would highlight that I think kind of inspires this victim mindset is we're segregated, and so therefore we think we're either superior or we're less superior, and that kind of triggers these thoughts of ill will, hatred, and whatnot.
Yeah. We had Rhonda McGee on one of our episodes last season, and Rhonda McGee is African American, and she talks about specifically how race is obviously the segregation is so prevalent, but just by bringing mindfulness in, and I know this kind of sounds trivial, but by bringing mindfulness in, we can have that compassion and see one another as human beings. And she talks about mindfulness in racial equality, and so it's pretty powerful stuff. And you kind of hit the reverse there. What we do in society is segregate ourselves, whether it's on gender, whether it's on the vaccinations, whether it's on political party, whether it's on race, religion, whatever. We do segregate ourselves, and in doing so, set ourselves up as the feeling of inferior or superior, one or the other, and that can lend to that victimhood mentality. So great point, Jake. Thanks for that. If people wanted to find you, brother, after this, how do they go about finding you?
Yeah, so my book is called The Recipe, U.S. Marines Mindset for Success. You can find it on Amazon or through my author, Don Bates Publishing. And I'm on LinkedIn, primarily as Jay Cosme, or I don't really go on Twitter too much. I mostly just go there to kind of shit post, for what it's called, about crypto. But that's where it's at. And I'll probably have I'm starting the works to outline my second book, which I want to talk about kind of its evolution in cryptocurrencies, probably in the next year or two. And that one I want to do a lot more marketing pizzazz around. But you got to get your mind straight first before you kind of jump to the next thing.
Yeah.
Right on, brother.
We have a request, Jake, for dropping that poem. If you want to drop that poem, I mean, after the show, like into the, we have a LinkedIn feed here live. Or actually, yeah, you can send it over to me as well. And I think people might want to use that as a good reference, because it is really like the only place we ever are, like Jon was mentioning, we're excited, is here and now. And if we can find ourselves in here and now, and understand our feelings that might try to pull us into that negative, victim mindset, but also connecting to the higher purpose, which could also bring up other feelings to move us forward into, our triumphant self. It's all there, but it all starts with becoming aware of where we are and how we are being and what we're feeling and what we need to do in order to go forward, instead of, just kind of living in the same negative vortex of victimhood that just kind of keeps spinning you in the same place and keep showing the same and giving you the same results.
Will do. So, I'll drop it right here and send it to you guys right after.
Cool. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. Well, that said, we'll go ahead and get into our closing practice. And after the closing practice, we'll say our farewells. But Jake, hang out for a minute after we say our farewells, and we'll chat offline. So, that said, let's drop into the present moment, just like we just talked about, right? So, let's focus on that. Let's get comfortable, whatever that looks like for you. I'm standing right now, but you could be sitting, you could be laying down, you could be driving, but do whatever's safe and whatever's comfortable. And let's bring our focus into the present moment just by taking a few, no forced breaths, but just taking a few very intentional and very aware breaths, focusing on the physical sensation of breathing in and breathing out. Just in silence and just noticing. And now let's bring some of those mantras into this meditation, into this grounding practice, and finish with that. Whatever that mantra may be, think about the victor's mantra. Think about being positive. Mantras about taking action. Mantras about gratitude. Whatever that mantra is for you, bring that in and think about it. Focus on it. And in your mind, say it to yourself. And one more time, say it to yourself in your mind and envision yourself as that victor. And then let's close together with one last deep cleansing breath. Begin by breathing out all your air. Bring your navel to your spine. Breathe deep in through your nose. Top it off. And let it go nice and slow. You've got this. All right. And on your own time, come out of the practice and we are done. Jake, thanks so much, brother. Thanks for being with us. We really appreciate it. Awesome show. And hope the best for you and best success for you and your book and everything else, man. You've got a lot going on. So love having you here.
Will, Jon, thank you guys so much. It's great. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Jake, for joining us. Beautiful guys.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
All right. Go be a hero.
Yes. Boom. There you go.
Love it.
Thanks for joining Will and Jon on Men Talking Mindfulness. If you enjoyed the show, Please like and share it with your friends and family, and please, we would appreciate a review too. Until next time, this has been Men Talking Mindfulness. Thanks for showing up.